Welcome to another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast. Hey guys, welcome to yet another episode of the Higher Line podcast. This is a first. I'm in a hotel room, 60 floors up. The streets of Las Vegas are below. There's a woman in bed here, and there's a woman on a chair here. And we're going to begin. Mickey with carrytrainer.com, and we are with Stan Campbell, my good friend. This is going to be an interesting discussion. Oftentimes, the guests that we share with you have something worth sharing, of course, but we're not going to make it about his business. We'll circle back to that a little bit. I want to talk about who this guy is as a person, and maybe your career as a police officer a little bit.
Yeah.
So who's Stan Campbell? Let's start with that. Like if somebody says, who's Stan Campbell, like how do you answer that?
I start off by saying, born and raised in the mean streets of New Jersey.
Oh, were you from New Jersey?
Yeah,
I knew that. I knew that.
East Coast guy.
Were they mean?
Yeah, pretty dangerous.
Where?
Newark.
Okay.
I try to say it right.
Yeah, Newark.
We say Newark.
Newark. So how do you say it if you're from New Jersey?
Just like fork, but Newark.
Newark.
Yeah,
Newark.
So we say it wrong. Local.
So it's not Newark.
It is Newark.
But how you say it if you're from there?
Newark.
Newark.
Yeah.
So you grew up there.
Grew up there.
Was this like 1980?
I was in the 80s.
Yeah.
So, you kind of consider it, between your early teens. So I'm an 80s baby.
Mm-hmm. I miss the 80s.
So do I. The interesting thing about me as a child is that my dad was a living counselor for a group home.
Mm-hmm.
So from the age 5 to 10, so a 5-year period, I lived in a group home, 3 stories, with 13 young boys that, different challenges in life. A lot of them, a lot of criminal background and stuff like that.
Like foster children?
Yeah, so foster kids. But they would just age out. Of course,
Okay.
once they turned 18, they had to
So you had
go.
like kind of brothers that just
Kind of
went on
brothers.
to life.
Yeah, but was, it's when I really understood and got introduced to crime, right? And it was on the opposite side of that. The kids would like teach us how to break in cars and
Dang.
and do a lot of white collar stuff and.
So were these like kids like in a bunk bed next to you, or were they like down the hall?
They had the second floor. We had the third floor.
Okay.
So of course the common areas in the office was my dad's office on the first floor, and then we had a cook. Like to us it was a mansion, but with thugs. So but like again they were like my brothers, but it gave me a true understanding of people with challenges, lower level folks that you understood that they had a lot of them were abused and different things like that.
You probably saw some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Like fights and outbursts.
Mm-hmm.
Because kids that grow up like that are not usually well behaved.
No, it's a lot of fighting that went on in there. My dad, held down a pretty tough ship. So he didn't, he was in great shape back then. So he kind of kept everybody in line. By the time I was 14, I was introduced to, like I said, the white collar stuff. There was a young kid that would teach me different things. And so I started, the FBI knocked on the door in New Jersey Transit because I was doing counterfeit bus cards. So I'll sell them to young kids and stuff.
So the thing to get on the bus like this.
Yeah. New Jersey Transit bus passes, the monthly passes, I would.
You ever admitted this?
Yeah.
Like on video?
No, it's first time.
Okay. So you're a child, and so you're basically selling them?
Yeah, just selling them. It's just a hustle.
Yeah.
So I never was, because we did have some kids that did robberies and stuff like that. Never got into that. I truly cared about people my entire life, but really, the hustle.
It's not the pocketbook of the public transportation system.
Yeah. Listen, come on, just trying to make I'm just a kid. So like I said, 14 years old.
So
I was an artist as well. Yeah, FBI came in because they thought that I was working for somebody because it was so good.
Did your papa beat you? That had to be. You had not
at that time.
Happy about that.
Yeah. My mom beat me on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, it was mom's turn. But yeah, so I was an artist. So
what kind?
Acrylics, so painter.
Okay.
So I was in art school, and the reason why my bus passes look so good, because I would hand paint them. And I would get the color just right, hand paint them, put the little plastic over it and sell them, for half the price that you would pay.
Wow.
Yeah. Back to, like I said, my dad was a chess master as well. So he taught me chess at the age of 3. And by the time I turned 6, I was playing college students and kicking their tails. And my dad would put me in all these different different tournaments and stuff, the local. And so I was city champ there in Orange, New Jersey, as a 6-year-old. And
as a 6-year-old, you beat adults?
Mm-hmm. So
wow.
I was beating adults all the time. And
you ever played chess with them? No?
No. Not yet. I'll have the teacher.
I want to play. I'm not very good at it. I know how to play, but...
Is that still on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's still on.
Well, I don't know. I don't trust you.
If the red light's blinking, it's still on.
All right.
I can tap this so you can see yourself. It's just in a battery saving mode.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So I was pretty smart kid, artist. I went to art school. So if you remember the show back in the day, Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but that was located in New York.
Okay.
There was a sister school called Arts High in New Jersey. So in Newark, New Jersey, me and my sister actually went there. My sister was an actress, and I went for art. So I graduated from there. Didn't know what I wanted to do initially. Put my hand up for a second for the Army, and then decided to kind of walk away from that because my recruiter lied to me, and I didn't want to go in for what he said to go in for. And then I became an ambulance driver. So I went to school at 18 years old and became an EMT. So there in East Orange, still in Essex County in New Jersey. For 2 years, I was an EMT. Is when I first started interacting with police officers. Now, in 1988, when I started, that was post-crack epidemic, so 85 through 88. So a lot of crackheads out there, and they would try to rob the ambulance all the time. So we wear bulletproof vests on the ambulance.
What were they stealing?
Trying to find drugs and stuff. Okay. So, anything they can. You pull up, they might make a 911 call and ask for medical. Like there's a guy down on the alley on the side, and as we go look, they go and break into the ambulance and try to take what they can. Yeah.
Keep protecting it.
Yeah. So that kind of stuff. So like I said, introduced to being the first responder at that time, started being buddies with cops. Like initially, I didn't really like the cops in New Jersey. They're very aggressive. Back in the 80s, a lot of hands-on stuff. I then I had a high school sweetheart. We ended up getting married in 1990, and I moved to Oklahoma. So from New Jersey to Oklahoma, totally, it was nothing like Jersey. A lot slower. The people were friendlier. When they stopped to ask for the time, or they ask you for the time, they're not going to steal your watch. So, I had to kind of change the way I thought about people, because I saw everybody as suspects in New Jersey. You don't trust anybody. Survival of the fittest type thing.
So you went to Oklahoma City in 90. What year was the bombing?
95.
95. So you're out there getting away from craziness, and like the craziest thing ever happened.
Yeah.
I don't want to get there yet.
I got you.
So you move out there and decide to become a policeman? Is that what took you there?
No, I actually was going down, because I went down. My uncle worked at the airport, as a trainer. And he passed away in 1989. And when I went to his funeral, I was like, man, this is really a nice place to bring up children. So that's when I decided to move down there, and the cost of living was great. So we ended up having 2 children, a son and a daughter, at that time in the early 90s. And I got on the police department. So, initially I went down. It was actually, I went with my cousin down he wanted to join the fire department. So when I went down there with him, he filed his application. We come out, and right across, the way was police recruiting. So I said, hey man, for giggles, let's go in there and just put applications in. So I didn't really want to be a policeman. I didn't think I did anyway. So I went in, filled out the application. I got a week, after a week, they called me back and said, you got the job. And I'm like, oh, I got the job. Oh my God, well, now what am I gonna do? Because I was like, oh, did I really want it? And then I started thinking, I said, they
Which
said,
is different, because a lot of guys are like, ever since I was 5 years old.
Yeah, not me. So, and most of them are lying anyway.
You think?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Unless they had a dad or, family member as a cop. But anyway, that's one of those things that you say. But I was a protector. right? You know, I didn't really like bad people or really predators. Let me say that. I gotta be real specific. I didn't like predators. And, you know, so when I got the job, I said, you know what, I'm going to, you know, do 911 for a little bit. This is what I thought anyway, brand new green. Do 911 for a little bit, work in patrol, and then go straight to sex crimes and go after predators. That's really what I wanted to do. Never made it there. But so went through the academy, kind of, you know, I enjoyed it. I was introduced to the top-notch police officers, the ones that were really, they had integrity and honor and, you know, the best of the best. And I was like, you know what, I like to be like these guys. Then when you get out, you're introduced to the field training program, where they, many of them in that time, in the early 90s, you know, stated that, you know, forget everything you learned in the academy. You know, it only matters what I teach you in the streets. And so it was a little different. It was a little shocking, you know, because, you know, things weren't done the same way. You operated in the gray areas, not so much black and white. So I was always good with people, which saved me. I was pretty fit back then too, 165 pounds, soaking wet.
You're svelte.
Oh man, I was so, yeah. Now I'm a big back. Not really, but
Big back.
I'm a big back right now. But yeah, I was built for speed. Like I was fast. I was doing all the things. I loved the job. You know, like everyone else in the 90s, like coming out of the 80s, going to the 90s. And then don't forget, right when I graduated, it was post Rodney King, gangster rap. So you had F the Police was out. They didn't take us well. I assumed that, you know, I wanted to go to the black side of town and like just do justice for my people because of the way I grew up. Get over there and they hated me. They hated me just because of the uniform I wore.
You were the police.
I was the police, sellout, Uncle Tom, we got all of it. And they put a lot of pressure on us over there.
What's it mean when somebody says Uncle Tom?
Well, I'm sure they're talking about the character in the book, I'm sure, but it's pretty, I mean, Uncle Tom really means sellout. It means like
so
you're just down with the white man, you don't care about your own people is really what it is, you know, the simple definition of it. So, you know, you really had to have thick skin back then because like I said, it was a us against them mentality. And, you know, I worked on that side of town, I trained on that side of town, but then I started recognizing, you know, some groups of officers that were not quite right. And they ran around like a wolf pack and, you know, they looked at me. I stayed quiet when they did their thing, you know, when I, you know, witnessed some stuff, you know, because I was just getting a job and it was like, you know, I don't want to lose it. So people weren't big on informing on officers, you know.
I think what you're saying is you saw some things happen that were maybe outside of the rules of the job.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, so they would do some things, some questionable things. I would see them at the jail saying, hey, this time you say you saw him drop the drugs and stuff like that. So there was a lot of that going on back then. And they recognized or they saw something in me that they didn't trust. So after training, they made sure that I got shipped to the other side of town.
You didn't play the game.
I didn't play the game. So I was okay with that because I didn't want to be put in that position. So I went to the opposite side of town, loved it over there. You know, it was a little bit more mixed area, hard charger, aggressive, of course, you know, just loving to get into it. I loved patrol. And then, you know, moving forward into April 19th, 1995.
Before that, what back in those days, what was the service weapon when you started?
Oh, we had just transitioned over to Glock 17.
Okay, so it's just started.
Just transition.
So they hung up the revolvers.
Yeah. I got a funny story for you. You ready for that?
Yeah.
Okay, funny story in the academy. Like most of the guys down in Oklahoma, they've been hunting with their dads and, you know, familiar with weapons. I was not, coming from Jersey. I didn't really handle weapons that well. I mean, never handled a weapon anytime. And when I was in the academy, you know, of course, they introduced me to a shotgun. And I just couldn't get it right. I was left eye dominant, you know. They were trying to teach me to shoot with my right eye. And, you know, I kept trying to do it. And I was, you know, back and forth. So I wasn't making the time. So we're back at the 50 shooting slugs. And we had to make the time. And because I couldn't, you know, load properly, you know, and get it all in there and get my shots in. So I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and kind of get ahead of this, and I'm going to put the shells in my hand, and I laid the shotgun on top so I can have them close to put in. It wasn't a good idea.
Drop them all over the floor?
No, it's not that. So, I get set up, and I got them laid up there.
Oh, I got what you
Oh, yeah, I got them laid up there, and I'm trying to fix this eye situation. So the butt of the shotgun slides into the middle of my chest, and we're shooting slugs. And as I pull, of course, nothing's really holding the gun. So I pull, it's like, pop, pop, catch me in my chin. And I'm like, I lose consciousness. Like, but I'm standing up, and then I see the shotgun coming back down,
God.
and I grab it like this, and you can hear the range master, oh my God, who's that on lane 14? I'm like, Campbell, sir. And I mean, it was just terrible. I mean, it was a freaking goof, just a goof. So, I had to practice with it. I finally made it through. Yeah, what a dummy.
How old were you?
Going in 21.
Okay.
So 20. Oh yeah, just a kid, man. So, young pup, didn't know nothing.
Skinny little kid.
Yeah.
Big old shotgun in the center of his chest.
Just dumb. Yeah, about knock. I mean, oh man, it's so stupid. But anyway,
make fun of you that they call you like Scattergun or have any cool name?
I don't remember my name there. They called me an idiot. So, so it wasn't nothing cool at all.
Now that wouldn't be allowed.
Yeah. You can't tease anybody or do anything like that anymore.
So you're out just working on the streets. You're doing
working on the
work,
streets. Yeah.
like DUIs and drunk idiots.
All the above. I mean, just everything.
And,
yeah. So all the patrol stuff.
So you grew up seeing violent stuff happen.
Yes.
But you didn't like grow up in the hood, right?
Yes, I still grew up in the hood.
You did in
Yeah.
that part of Jersey, so that
Yeah.
home and stuff?
Not the projects. We would go visit the projects because that's where our family lived. We grew up real poor.
Did you see violence on the streets?
Oh,
like
yeah.
when you were a kid?
Yeah, it's back then, of course, we're talking about the 80s. There's no GPS, and like we create our own way home. Like if the house was a mile away, we would take 10 miles to get there because you got to zigzag, and because, of the bad neighborhoods,
Sure.
And you end up in the wrong neighborhood, they get you. So, we had to really be careful about that. It was very segregated at that time, like you had your Italian neighborhoods, it's your Italian neighborhood. And if you go through there, they didn't like you. You got your Russians, you got your Puerto Ricans, your blacks, and you had to watch out, where you went through, or you get jumped by, somebody of the opposite race as well.
I guess where I'm going is, so now you're a young cop, and now you're seeing bad stuff.
Yeah.
Rolling up on accident scenes, people's friggin' heads smashed and arms mangled, and I'm sure you've seen some violence where people were shot or
Absolutely.
such things.
Yeah.
So how did that impact you as a young kid?
So I'm still an eye-opener. I mean, it wasn't that much different from my life in Jersey, meaning seeing it, but, having to interact with people in their emergencies was new to me. Having, being someone that needed to have all the answers was new, especially being young.
What do you mean by that? Because it was your job as a
Because your job as a police officer. Yeah, I mean, they expect you to be everything. So
had the answers to the victim.
Yep, to the victim. So, any problem that they have, they want it solved. And in that 10-minute period, or however long you interact with them. So that was fairly new to me. It was, like I said, an eye opener. I ended up moving forward to. I ended up, getting. I love to go pick up people on warrants, and I went to go. Me and some other officers went to go pick up a guy on some warrants. And we actually look for his son, and we go to this fairly nice area. There's a black gentleman, and he kind of gave us some pushback at the door. It was really me and another person, and the older officers were on the side of the house. And he tried to close the door on me, so I stuck my foot in the door to keep him from doing it, and letting him know I'm here for his son. And he's like, he's not here, and he's kind of trying to push the door on me, and then finally kind of lets it go. And I walk inside the house, and then he comes at me. He said, "Get out of my house." And he has a wine glass. So I see him, and I said, "Don't put that glass in my face." I grab him by his wrist, and I put his hand down. And he's like, "Get off me, get off me." And he yelled at his wife, and tells his wife, "Call 911. And I was like, okay, if he's saying call 911, maybe the son's not here, or he ran out the back or whatever. So I said, okay. So I let him go, and I was like, okay, everything's good. I'm backing out now, blah, blah. Well, he accused me of excessive force from just that movement there. So got accused of excessive force. Then he came back and he wanted to sue the police department and myself for
before body
damages.
cameras and all that stuff.
We had Polaroid cameras.
Sure. I'm
no
just stating
body cams.
for listeners and viewers, like that at that time, it was his
no camera phones there. I mean, you know, we had the old Motorola's and then the brick phones back then, so wasn't much to that. So I wasn't worried about that. But there's also no evidence to dispute what he was saying.
To support your side of the
That's
story.
correct. Now, he had no injuries, but he said, you know, the mental thing and all this other stuff. So he had enough money that he found a lawyer that took the case and wanted to go against the city, and which landed me in federal court, which leads me into the bombing. So I was in federal court the day of the bombing right across the street from...
I don't think, and as long as I've known you, I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so it was some trumped up charges, you know, it went to federal court. Yeah, and it was my birthday. So I'm there on my birthday and walking in. We just sit down, and you know there was some argument between the lawyers, so the jury was not in the courtroom at the time. And right around at 9:02, you know, we hear this. We're all sitting around the table, and then we're pushed back from the concussion, pushes all of us back into our seats first, and like just felt like, you know, the hands of God just pushed you. And we're all looking at each other like, what was that? And then all of a sudden you hear boom, and then the building shakes. We thought it was a bomb at our building because the judge, you know, hits the gavel and says, recess, that was a bomb, right? And I said, okay, you ain't got to tell that brother twice. I got up quick, right? So I get up and I start walking toward the door, and then I notice everybody's kind of lined up behind me, and they look, I creak it open and I see, and it's like, you know, smoke-filled hallways, and you know, the ceiling tiles are down, and of course, we checked our guns in, so we had to get to the front to get our guns. So I'm looking for suspects, and so we slowly go down the line of officers and lawyers and stuff behind me, and we make the corner, and
Were
I
you
see.
in uniform?
Yes.
Yeah. All
All in uniform. We made it to our guns, and like the front of the, because they had revolving glass doors at that time. They were all blown out. So we really did think that the bomb was there.
You thought it was?
Yeah, we thought it was our building. We thought it was the federal courthouse.
You hadn't even seen the real devastation?
We had not, because it was a little bit higher. So we were on the south side of the building, not where the devastation was. Okay, so that kind of protected us a little bit. Well, come out, and all of a sudden it was just an eerie silence, right? And we had our guns, and we hear this lady looking. She was looking across the street and started screaming. She's like, "Oh my God, the children!" And we're like, "What?" So we look across the street, and we see like the smoke going up from the Alpha P Murrah building. And so it's like, oh my God, like that's where it happened. So we immediately start running across the street. So I was one of the first 4 officers on the south side. There's really 6 officers, 2 that entered from the north side and the 4 of us from the south side that were there initially. And then we, started seeing the different walking wounded. The first woman that I saw, she didn't look like anything was wrong with her, but she had some glasses on, and the lens of her glasses was missing, and so was her eye. And it was like nothing else. And I was like, got her, and I said, okay, let me help you, and walked her down to the ambulance. Went back up, and then the degrees of injury started going up and up. And I finally made it to the building, and they started talking about how, because at the time, on that side, the second floor is where I think the daycare was. Well, it ended up down just below the first floor into the basement. So all the rubble. Ooh, good question. 168 died. I don't know how many were children. I didn't study that. So
hey, would you look that up, Bennett?
But so that was that, and then we had to enter.
And this is like, at that time, it's not that long ago, but so much has changed with all of that training and gear, like for fire, EMS, and now it'd be completely different. You guys are just out there in your polyester freaking
Correct.
Police coat, with your kind of like dress street shoes on.
Yeah, I mean, like dress blues. I mean, we had all that stuff ready for court, so we had I didn't have boots on and stuff like that. So we entered, and I had to tell you, like the last person that I ran into on that side prior to going to the kid chain was I see a man coming down the stairs. Actually, I hear him first, and I hear somebody coming around, and it's like a little shuffle. And no one else is around me. It's just me. And then I can hear him going, right? So I have kind of like it was a little surreal moment right? Because I stopped there at the edge because I didn't know what I was going to see. And he comes around, you see his hands, and just like a zombie, this guy comes around the corner, and then I look at him, and wherever he was, I don't know if it was glass that did it or just a concussion of the bomb, but his face, it looked like somebody took a razor, cut him all the way down here and all the way up, blew the face up, and then the skin came down. It looked like a skin veil with it rested on the tip of his nose. And all I can see, the eyes were sunk in and blood was coming out what was the eye sockets right there, or, the eyelids, and it looked like tears of blood.
But on his cheekbones.
Yeah, no, just skin. So like I say, if you can think about the skin resting on the nose, it was like a skin veil. It was really weird. So that particular image haunted me most of my career, and it really took me on 20 some odd years to actually deal with it.
What do you mean it haunted you? Like, close your eyes
the image.
at night,
Yeah, like the image of
throughout
it.
the day?
I mean, for some reason, that particular image just, it messed with me. In the early 90s, there wasn't much help that you can get. Or firemen did it, policemen didn't. If you did it as a policeman and even said someone bothered you, they would see you as weak. And the officers give you a hard time, so you wouldn't ask for any type of mental health assistance. But everybody was kind of strange because as we move forward, everyone that was there that responded to the bombing ended up having some type of mental issues, in different degrees before they even got help. So
I know I've talked about this with Gary before. He's had some conversations about it. Was Rob there too?
Rob, he came he's a rookie at the time, I believe, and he ended up showing up with his graduating class.
Okay.
They were still in the academy, I believe, and that's where Rob
So they
was.
just like sent him as...
Mike Darden was there later. He was a secondary responder because where was he working? I don't know if he was working for the gang unit at the time, but he ended up coming down as well, working it. It was wild. So from that, we slid right over. After that guy, I got him, I grabbed his arm. It was mush. I mean, all the bones were just shattered in his arm, and like I'm trying to.
Your EMT days probably never showed you anything like that.
Nothing like that. I wasn't prepared for it. I mean, it really felt like I was dreaming, right? Because it's like no one was around me at the time, and I just felt like I was dreaming, like it's a nightmare. Get him, to safety, and then when I came back up, that's when they started to remove. Firemen were arriving, nurses, doctors, people. We started grabbing construction folks. Like, it was the most amazing thing in reference to people helping. It was like talk of civilians. It didn't matter. Everybody was helping, which made it beautiful. We started moving the rocks and stuff, and finally got down to the kids, and then they started handing them out. And one of the kids, and it actually ended up being a white girl, but I just had a daughter that was about 3 years old at that time. She was 3 years old, 3 or 4. She might be 4. But when I grabbed this girl and she was covered with, dust and dirt and mud, because they went down to the basement and a lot of water and stuff. The pipes had broken. And so when I looked at her, it gave me a flash of my daughter because she looked like a black girl.
Little kid.
Yeah.
Little body.
Yeah. So it was, and she was kind of limp. So we kind of made sure that she got into the firemen. And it was really wild. And then once we got the kids out, right about, we said that was at 9:02, about 10:30, things started, a lot of people started getting there. And that's when they had the second bomb scare. And they said it's a secondary device that someone found. I think it ended up being something in the ATF office or something like that that wasn't a true device. Well, they yelled and they was like, another bomb, right? And I see like 70 people, first responders and citizens running at me because at that time some lieutenant had come up and say, hey, watch all these gurneys and stuff, because they had kind of set up a zone to be able to take people out. Well, I see them running. I'm like, and I was like, what? They like, run, it's a bomb. So I'm like, okay. I turn around, so I start running to southbound on one of the streets, and it was just like really weird. Now you got about 70 people chasing behind me. I got them by like about half block because I said I was fast. I'm going, because if it's as big as that one, I said, I don't want no parts of it. I'm not going to be here.
Yeah.
So I ran, and
I'm not gonna
an ambulance had passed me. Ambulance passed me, and then the back doors opened up, and there was another policeman in there. He was like, "Soup," that was my nickname. Soup, get in, right? So I jump in, and the ambulance is still going, right? And all these
people,
we know everybody can't fit in here,
right?
So I'm like, okay, if this is about to go off, so I close the doors.
Can't save.
So I can't save no U-70. So I'm saying it's every man for himself. So closed it. They drove us several blocks away, and it was the first time that in that hour and a half that I had the opportunity to really take it all in, because you run on adrenaline,
Breathe for a second.
So my mom had called, because of course the cell service was wacky. Everybody's calling in at the same time. Cell service was going down. Had my little flip phone, and somehow my mom got through, and she was like, and I was like, "Mom, hey, it's me." And she said, "No, it's not. I saw the building." So she thought the building was the federal courthouse.
She thought you were in there.
She thought I was in there. So she didn't believe that it was me. And, so I'm saying, it's me. She said, "No, it's not." So she didn't believe it. And then, because of that mother's sound, that sparked an emotional event, which I started crying, right? And I was like, no, it's okay. I'm good. Well, I go back. I make it back around to the building. They said it wasn't a bomb. I went to the command post at that time. And they said, we got enough people, just go ahead and go home. So I went home, and then, I tell some of the story every once in a while to civilians, because I need to know that when they talk about officers and dealing with officers, I said, you never know what they've been through. Because I went the next day, showed up to work for just regular patrol. And it's like, I just got finished with the bomb and all that, and the traumatic event. And now here I am to either serve you or deal with you in this capacity. So I went to work, and then my boss came up and he said, "Hey, Soup, I need you in here for a second." Calls me, and he's like, and this is when I first met Gary, and he says, I need you to, they're asking for about 20 people, and half detectives and people that we think can handle work in the temporary morgue. And I was like, dude, I said, that was my birthday. I said, I don't want to go down. And he's like, sorry. He says, I don't think anybody else can handle this. I really want you to do it. And I didn't want to do it, but I did. I went down there and kind of lucked out. And I say lucked out in that I was responsible for helping to put body bags in, right? But I wasn't like what Gary and they were doing, which where they had to find body parts and go in and try to identify them. So they're trying to find wallets and stuff. So they got, you might find some legs and some jeans or whatever, and they're trying to identify folks. And so I was guarding the truck with the bodies in it, and I'm there for a week. And then after 7 days, because it's the same 20 people, and we're doing around-the-clock stuff, and we're trying to do all that. We get, they pull us in, because like I said, mental health wasn't big back then. They pull us in. The temporary morgue was a church that was across the street, so they turned into all the pews are pushed out and stuff like that, and they were processing the bodies there first. But they bring us in, and it's like this old dark church, and all the pews, and they put some chairs in a circle, and they bring a Catholic priest out. He comes out, and and they sit down with us, and they order us pizza, pepperoni pizza, and we're sitting up here, we're trying to eat, and I'm trying to say that because it pisses me off. It pisses me off because they start to say, hey, we want to kind of check you guys right now, find out if everybody's okay, right? So now you chose all these people for a reason, because y'all don't want us to emote. You don't want us to feel what's going on and just like put it out. We're trying to be tough, and now you want to bring it out of us. And it's like, this wasn't the time. So they said, hey, Soup, how you feeling? I was like, I said, are you kidding me? I said, we smell burning flesh right now, and you gave us pizza. How do you think we feel? I said, I think this is bullcrap. Let us get back to work and do what we're doing. So everybody kind of agreed, and nobody wanted to talk, and said, we want to go back to work. And that's what we did. So we went back to work. So again, like I said, the mental health thing is so important now. We push that in everything we do, of course. I know everyone does, but it was wild. So it was wild. And then from that point, it took me about maybe another 10 years to actually cry about anything. I kind of, anything. It was nothing. Nothing
in general?
There was anything
related to the bombing?
Anything. I just refused to cry.
You just bottled everything.
I bottled it up, buried it, and it messed with me, So, yeah, so that was that.
How did that affect relationships?
Honestly, it's already hard to be a cop. You already know that. And cops are terrible with relationships. But this is one of the reasons why. Is like because they see so much. If you can imagine somebody doing a tour, in the military, there's a short period of time, and ours is little bits and pieces of traumatic events over a long period of time. And the longer you go, the less you care, the less you like people. And it was just going through that thing, a 20-year career kind of really weighed on me. There were some high moments, of course. I got an honor guard. And I was called down in 96, 97 that's when I started my training career. I got brought down to be a mentor at the academy. So I was part of the academy staff for 2 years. I did like 3 years, actually, did like 4 different academies in that position as a training officer, then sergeant. I thought it was just such an important job. It was like, catching them while they're green and really letting them know, how things are out here, and trying to make them understand, the importance of service, instead of just trying to put bad people in jail, like really serving people. That was my thing.
Seems like there's like a fine line. Like I've got a family member that doesn't love cops, and his thought is, you chose to do this job.
Yeah.
So like you can't go have this bad thing happen and then pull me over and be a dick to me because you kind of like get a bad day at work and now you're coming home from work and you're a jerk to your wife and kids. It's not their fault that you had a bad day at work.
Correct.
But like the thing I've always argued is, maybe not even argued, it's just thinking about that. Even like an ER nurse, or there's hundreds of jobs where people just see things on the regular that an average person maybe is exposed to, like crazy uncle got drunk at a party and smashed something and mom got scared, and you had this like little moment where like, oh, everybody was out of sorts, and that's like this defining thing from when you were 10 years old.
Yeah.
And you had that happen every Tuesday.
Yeah.
Or every 10 a.m.
Yeah.
That does have to cause some rewiring, maybe remapping of the brain in some way.
Yeah, I think the first challenge that most officers, at least myself, and I'm gonna say most officers because I know a lot of policemen that are similar, dealing with people's problems day in, day out, 20 plus calls a day, for how many years you work, you tend to not want to deal with your own problems. So when you get home, that usually kind of starts so if the wife comes up and the dryer's not working or whatever, or there's a leaky faucet, like you don't want to deal with it. You don't want to pay bills. You don't want to do nothing. You're just tired, you're exhausted. And now you have to deal with your own problems, you have to deal with all these other people's problems. So I think that kind of starts with the communication thing with spouses, and then, you also have the, other relationships that are affected because you start to, I always say it like this, like cops end up, because this is a big business too, right? Yeah, so cops end up being, you find out the system is just not, well, you think that you're going to put bad people in jail, next thing you know, they get out before you finish your paperwork. You notice that the command staff and the chiefs and all those folks, they're really quick to try to, discipline you when they shouldn't, just because you get some complaint, especially those who are really hard chargers. If you're a hard charger, it's even worse because the more involvement you have with citizens, the easier it is to get into a complaint or something like that. So and then the citizens turn on you, like the people, and you're charged to, even if they hate you for the uniform you wear and what you represent, you're charged with that thing to still serve them. So I know you hate me, but I'm going to save your life today. I know you hate me, but I'm going to help you, right? And then, and then the verbal attacks and the physical attacks and all those things, and then you got to deal with the brass, and then you got to deal with the citizens. So it's almost like being an abused child where mom and dad are abusing you, and I say mom meaning the citizens and dad meaning the police department, and they're abusing you, and you have to love them both through it. So it's like really, that just eats away at most officers, and it just chips away at your care factor. And it's just like, man, this sucks. You know, you started, you're going in green, you're thinking, oh, I'm gonna save the world, this is gonna be awesome, and it's not. And then, you know, more officers come on, the green ones, they start doing dumb stuff, and it's like, every man for himself. Now, you go ahead, you're gonna deal with your own mess. So it's ups and downs during a police career in reference to like really doing the job right. So you're challenged. And then toward the end of my career, now you start with the body cams and the GPS and all the other things that kind of go, and then more politics that, you know, come into it. You know, the changes of the different chiefs, and everybody has new rules and new laws and everything. And it's a lot. So, you know, most officers toward the end of their career, they like becoming really hard. Bam. They become like hard in reference to emotionally hard.
Would you go back and do it again?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you do different?
What would I do different? That's a good question. I think, and I have to be honest about this part, I would.
Lying about the rest of this stuff?
No. I mean, I'm being honest with myself. I'm being honest with myself. Shut up, man. I'm being honest with myself. If I had the chance to do it over, like that opportunity, although I would have been attacked for it probably by others, that opportunity to inform on others doing bad, I would have done that, you know. And I say that because it leads into those officers that are negative, the ones that slid through the cracks, those who are look close to being bad guys, wearing badges, makes the rest of us look bad. You know, like,
happens kind of
like
a
your
lot,
George
doesn't it?
Floyd type situation.
Yeah. That happens, I think, more than people think.
Yeah.
It's a crazy job. I've never done the job. I know a lot of coppers. It's a crazy job, and like you said it a minute ago, people expect you to have all the answers. Like, my great-grandfather was a Chicago copper, Irishman, and I didn't know him. He passed when I was like 3 or 4 years old. But look at guys at that time, they didn't do it. There was no medical help or you know, mental health or any of that crap. Like, he carried a blackjack and thumped dudes on the head and drug them to jail. And that was like the job. It's definitely become a hugely different thing that America has tasked the profession with. It's interesting.
Yeah, and then like these new cops, oh my God, can barely trust them. And I say trust as in, they're not in it for, I mean, like when we got on back then, I'm making $10.38 an hour. Nothing. Like we were just beyond needing government assistance to live, you know. And so you know, I mean, lay down a lot of hours with the extra jobs and stuff like that. So you really spend a lot of time with your family. You know, it was a 10-year period. I worked 18 hours a day, just trying to inch above $100,000 a year. And so it causes just a lot of stress, and you deal with it. But we had, it was, wearing the badge over our heart meant something, you know, because our heart was in it. The guys that come now, they can't, there's no jobs, you know, when they get out of college, and they're like, oh, I'll do this for 2 years and I'll leave.
They can't be for everybody.
Not everybody. No, I'm just breaking some down. You know, you got those, and then you have, you know, some others that, you know, they get it, like, really still getting into it for the wrong reason, right? You got some that get into it for the money, and then you have others that, and I'm not talking about the majority. I'm still talking about, you know those. And then you run into, and I know you deal with this when you talk to your group about training, you know, the physical training and stuff, and being able to, you know, take care of yourself. Some of them are really too quick to shoot, you know, or they see it as a rite of passage to get involved in the shooting, you know, and like for us, and like, you know, when we first get on, you know, we use a lot more common sense, you know, and then these are just, a lot of them really by the book, and you have some that cannot control them. I mean, they can't fight their way out of a, you know, paper sack. And,
Did you ever have to fight?
All the time, yeah.
Just making that up?
No.
You probably went your whole career, never had to fight.
No, I enjoyed it. I mean,
You enjoyed it?
I enjoyed the fight, meaning if it was a bad person, if he chose a fight, meaning, of course, Oklahoma City had a reputation back in the day for handling business, and we did, so there was a lot of use of force going on. And
what would that look like?
Sanctioned. Punches in the face. Lost art of punching in the face.
The lost art?
The lost art of punching in the face.
What do you mean?
Well, back then, and now, when I got on, we had a gun, a little bit of pepper spray, and a straight stick initially, and went to the ASP. So you actually had to use common sense, verbal, commands, and then be healthy enough to defend yourself, to be able to defend others. So, and when I say lost art, people allow things to go too far and escalate to a point without handling someone quickly, to where they end up having to shoot them. So, and that's why I say the lost art. Putting your hands on people, they're afraid to move forward and to engage, regardless of intoxication, drugs on board. PCP was big back then. You get the naked guy, you got to go in. I mean, they got that superhuman strength. You got to go for it. And so we were just a little bit different, and just the old-fashioned blue-collar worker that wasn't afraid to scrap.
Did you ever lose a fight?
No.
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 Did you ever get your bell rung?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would be not honest if I didn't say that. I mean, if a fight is a fight. But the cool thing is, you get to the person to a position of control, and you put handcuffs on them. And usually, and not usually, all the time, when that happens, then it's over. It's like wrestling cattle. Time. So, yeah, we got into a lot of fights back then. Officers used to fight each other back then.
Did you? Just for fun?
No, I'm talking about
angry or...
Oh, yeah. I had 2 officers pull a gun on me.
Pull a gun on you?
Yeah.
Oklahoma's got a huge wrestling program.
Now they do, yes.
You say now they do?
You talk Oklahoma, like the police department?
No,
or?
Oklahoma
Oh,
State.
got you. I'm sorry, go.
Every guy thinks he's a badass.
Yeah.
Every guy can drive a race car. Every guy can shoot. Every guy can grill a steak. Every guy's Casanova in the bedroom. There's a lot of dudes. They think, guys think this, right?
You just describe yourself, but go keep talking.
Everybody thinks this, but you have no walking around SHOT Show here. Just ran into a guy today. Comes up to our booth. He was a very nice, fit young dude, glasses like mine on, and not an insult to him. You wouldn't look at him and say there's an intimidating guy. I'm talking to him. He's a Air Force pararescueman, like the longest pipeline in special operations. The guy can probably run, 100 miles at the drop of a hat. He just jumped out of an airplane yesterday with the local guys because he could, because he was here. And this guy's just walk everywhere, right? You can't just impose your will on that guy.
Yeah.
And you're walking around Oklahoma. I mean, there's kids that grew up top tier high school wrestlers and stuff that probably grew up to be thugs, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever run into those guys?
Like someone truly committed?
Yeah, like somebody that could fight.
Someone that can fight. They were few and far apart. The greatest challenge was probably 96 to 98, and I say that because jiu-jitsu, the Gracies started. So now regular people were starting to really get advanced. I mean, you're a jiu-jitsu guy too, so So you'd be out there going to put hands on somebody, and all of a sudden they're like, they got skills.
And you're like, crap.
Yeah. So, and a lot of cops, like I did, we started going and studying the Gracie stuff so that we could, be able to deal with somebody that's skillful.
Okay. Yeah. All right. You never had to escalate to shooting somebody though, because you couldn't stop them physically with your hands.
I had 10 legitimate times that I had my finger on the trigger, ready to pull, and God didn't make it their day. So it wasn't aligned. I gave them one more chance to drop the weapon or whatever the case may be. That was a deadly force incident, and I didn't pull the trigger.
That's perfect.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. We talked yesterday. I talked yesterday on the podcast that taking a human life is just not natural. Military, of course, they do much more. Policemen are forced to do as well. Concealed carriers are a little bit less. But, when you do that, in my opinion, like you own that soul. So it's like, it's going to be with you forever.
Andy Stump told me in an interview once, he said it's not something to trifle with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not a game. It's not a game. And like when you do it, I wanted to make it so that if I have no other choice and it is just this guy's time, then he forced me to do it. And I never had those. And then when I say 10 times, I was on SWAT for 10 years. I had a street crime unit for 10 years as well. We did, over 700 drug raids on bad people.
What did SWAT look like in those days compared to now?
It's not much different now. I mean, they usually hold about 28. They might have 36 guys now. It's a part-time team in Oklahoma City. Most of the major cities across the nation have, full-time teams, but, ours, just not the manpower. The other issue with technology and people being able to call 911 from their pockets now, it's more calls. So that means you can't just dedicate a whole group to do that. But the team was great. We trained more so than most of the officers. And our training helped, and I learned that training more, right? You actually use less force. You train more with the gun and you have common sense with it. And you know that you could do it, but you only do it when you have to. So like between that and I was leading self-defense instructor for 15 years on Oklahoma City as well. So the more I trained, the more patience I had, the more I was able to see everything, the more, I was able just to know when it was going to be my time or not. So.
How many warrants did you say you?
About 700.
Wow.
Yeah, in the 10-year period.
Wow.
Like between SWAT and
these were bad
street
guys.
crimes.
These were not like dudes that didn't pay
bad guys.
tickets.
No, we talk about crack houses, weed houses, meth houses, gang members.
Tell me a crazy story from one of those.
Crazy story. God, I mean. God.
Just too many?
There's so many. I mean, I'm trying to think of something like crazy.
Is there one when you see some of your buddies or you guys are like, you remember that one time? And like the one story always comes up about one thing?
Well, I'll tell you, what was like the worst one, I think? I'm trying to figure it out. Like the most significant was one time that, these guys ended up, I'll tell something that's like kind of one of those things. But we went to get a guy. He was a gang member, and we had to hit him at like 6:01 in the morning, and trying to catch him sleep. And it was a group,
It's a very specific
up north.
time, 6:01.
Well, you can't hit the house till 6, so we hit him at 6:01.
Wait, why?
Just the judges at the time.
Okay.
I mean, between certain hours, you couldn't do it. So so we had him 6:01 in the morning. We hit the door. My team's going through. At that time, I've been doing it for so many years that I had the ability to really shut everyththing down. Like it would move in slow motion for me. And
you guys are all geared up.
All geared up. I can hear everything. Very sensitive. I can see everything. Everyone's moving slow, and you can hear, "Please search warrant." I'm knowing where all my guys are because they're my responsibility. And then I hear this glass break, and I didn't know what that was at first. When I come around the corner, I got this guy, and I mean, I thought my man shot him, and he's bleeding all over the place. And he's like, so he looked at me. I was like, "Did you shoot him?" He's like, "No, LT." He punched his hand through the window, then threw the crack down, and he cut himself.
Brachial artery.
Yeah, so he got it. Yeah, he got it.
Dang.
So I get over there, and I said, "All right, well, we'll get him up." So we called, the ambulance and fire, and I said, "Get him up." And so we go to get him up, and now I'm going to say, people laugh when I say this. I was on medication at the time, antidepressants and stuff. It doesn't excuse my behavior, but I was a little off. And when I told you like the bombing messed with me, like I ended up at one time being on for a 2-year period, antidepressants and stuff, and some pretty good stuff. Well, going through divorce at the time, I had a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
And when I said that your care factor kind of leaves you, well, I tell him, I said, "Go ahead, handcuff him, get him up." And so he goes, and the young buck is like, yo, you ain't got to grab me like that, one of those. I said, what? So I said, I got him. So I went ahead and I scooped him up and I snatched him by in the front of his, and I put him over my shoulder. So he's back there bleeding. And I'm walking him out. And I throw him on the porch. And when I do, he literally starts opening up like a faucet. It's like,
that artery was open.
oh, it was way open. So
he's dying.
Yeah. So I'm looking at him and he was like, so his friends are like, right? And I was like, shut up. And I looked down, I said, man, you got some blood on my boots, right? So he's like, he said, oh, you care about your boots? So he leans over and starts pushing it out more, right? And it's like, so my guys are like, LT. And I can hear the firemen coming, right? And they're right around the corner. He's like, all right, so he positioned, because he's trying to, now it's a lion thing.
He's handcuffed?
He's handcuffed, so he's pushing. No.
Apply any pressure to himself?
Nope. So he's pushing it out, and I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, and he's turning gray, right? And I said, I'm judging how much is coming out. I know how much he has left. So I'm like, firemen come up, and then here they come. They apply pressure. He's fine. Trigger finger doesn't work anymore because that hand was jacked up. But yeah, that's a wild time. But that's about the wildest thing that
nowadays that would get you in big trouble.
I end up being fired, definitely.
Fired and maybe in jail.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
But you own it. You're saying.
Absolutely.
I'm
saying I'm not perfect. I'm saying the job does things to you. The trauma does things to you. I mean, it's not a pretty thing dealing with that. And officers need to ask for help. Because if you don't, you can catch yourself in a downward spiral.
What would the help have been? That's, I think, another problem.
You talking about mental health or what?
Yeah, I mean, just that, they put you on antidepressants, but that doesn't fix anything. That's that you've got buried in there.
No.
I've got people I know. Tom Spooner created Mission 22. He was a Army Special Operations guy, Mission 22 in Warrior's Heart, which is down in Texas. They take guys, mostly military guys, but I know coppers. I got a couple of copper friends that have gone there, and it's like an intensive, like weeks-long inpatient. No drugs, no alcohol. Yeah. They get you all cleaned up, and they use art a lot as therapy, guys, like welding and doing stuff like that. But it wasn't cool, I think, for a long time. Like it took like super soldiers like Tom to say like it's going to be cool to not be messed up. Let's do this. I don't think that was very normal. What would the help have been?
I'm sure, psychiatrists, psychologists, a forced move, like when you see somebody doing that, you got to help these guys. You got a lot of officers that commit suicide now, it's like really, it's bad out there. And then
very high.
And then people see it. Yeah, it's it's the highest in reps of professions, but the officers see somebody going through it and they just let it happen. Supervisors don't step up. I was happy when, I became a supervisor and I really started moving into that realm, making my shift into de-escalation and helping others again, and watching out for my troops and making sure that they were all right, recognizing when they probably shouldn't be out for that day, when they're bringing something from home to work, mentally, and, talking to them. And it doesn't happen as much as it used to, the respect factor is gone for commanders, and a lot of people are promoted beyond their abilities. So, you get people that shouldn't be a supervisor, they're just being a manager, and they're not being leaders. They're not being leaders, they're being managers. Yeah, it does, yeah.
Happens a lot in government, just to in there a long enough amount of time, you get the right people. Yeah. Good old boys club kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So at what point did you transition from public servant to businessman?
So, coming upon my retirement, I was coming up on 20 years, it was 2011, and Mike, too, was coming up on 20 years in law enforcement. And he started thinking, and he was like, man, when we leave here, we become citizens again. You're a civilian. No matter how much if you bleed blue and, you think you still believe that you're a cop because you've been doing it for so long, you're a civilian. Still can get tickets, stuff can happen to you. But now you don't have the protections like you did with the FOP with the lawyers. So you don't have the union anymore. You don't have the lawyers anymore. You don't have the homicide guys that are going to, be there to take care of you, get out in the shooting, and your backup guys and your support unit. All of those things that was going to be missing. Mike says to Kyle at the time, because they're stepbrothers, and he's like, hey, I can't find anything out. At the time, you had NRA out. They had a horrible little program. USCCA was in their early stages. And
Carry guard.
No. That's 2014. I'm talking about 2011. It was U.S. Law Shield, was Texas Law Shield. So only Texas. So you had Texas Law Shield. You had USCCA was transitioning from magazines to a reimbursement model, right? So there was nothing that gave us that same thing, and everybody was just covering firearms. And Mike had the brilliant idea to create CCW Safe. And, he told me about it. He and I have been business partners and several times. Like, we started a t-shirt business back in 1992.
Really?
Yeah.
Just like fun stuff?
Yeah, we're both artists, so, Mike was brilliant with, oils, and he started getting into, he used to paint, scenes first. So he's going to go hunting.
I remember him telling me that. Yeah.
So we both painters. So we had the art background. So we did t-shirts for 2 years, no, 5 years actually. It's called Pigskin Designs. So we made a whole bunch of cop shirts and stuff, and made a little money. But
do you have any of them still?
The shirts? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then we moved into, because Mike's a little brainy, and we moved to doing websites. So we started designing websites and stuff. And so we've had several businesses, and he came up with that idea. I said, you stop everything else that we're doing. That's the one. So we no more. And at the time, he was teaching judo and jiu-jitsu, and I was teaching, self-defense and stuff, to citizens and all that. And we just stopped it all. And it's like, okay, CCW Safe, that's what we're gonna concentrate on. And then we entered into the business realm. And the first 2 years, like I said, 2011, we kind of really was established, but we didn't call it a true business until 2013. And so the first 2 years, it was like 2 tickets to the gun shows, what we call ourselves. I'd go down there and just try to, pedal at the gun shows.
Sure.
Yeah. And then, so our first year, we made $500. And the year after that, we're doing part-time, $5,000. And then came the Zimmerman trial. So at that time, I had relocated to California, and I was there for a couple of years. I just retired from the police department, went to California. We still had the business, would meet every once in a while to do business. But I'm sitting up there, and I'm a bodyguard for some billionaire, the guy that owns, actually his daughter, the guy that owns Formula One. So I'm in this, they call it was the old Spelling Manor, so the biggest mansion in Beverly Hills.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm working there with a team, right? So we got a team, and the host, the family, they were away in Europe at the time, and I saw that the Zimmerman trial was on. We didn't have nothing to do, so all the bodyguards and the butlers and maids, we all get together and we're watching Don West do his thing on the Zimmerman trial. So we're still watching it, and I'm looking, and I said, first day, no big deal. The next day, we all come in, it's on again, so we all gather again in the kitchen and start watching it. And then I started thinking, I said, wait a minute, everyone is pulled into this nationwide.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the time to actually market. So I called Mike up and I was like, hey, man, how much money you got? And he tells me, I said, this is the time. So we ended up getting an XM radio ad, pushed it out. And I said, man, I don't have the money right now, I said, but the sweat equity, I said, I'll give it to you. I said, if something happens. So sure enough, boom, we hit it. Trial ends, 30 days later, $275,000. And I was like, wow, I said, this is it. So we were on. And then slowly, it was $99 back then, We're not really too far from it.
No.
Right? But it was $99 back then, 2013. And we just kind of started really polishing what it needed to be. And we said, okay, we put some time into how we designed it, and the reason why we said, okay, there can't be any cutoff of the funds. So you can't cap the funds. And he said, and we got to move beyond, and they thought all the rest of the industry at the time, the other 3 organizations, thought we were crazy, saying we're going to cover any use of force to defend your life. So we were the first to do that. So we did that, so we went beyond the gun, because as a cop, you might have to use your flashlight, you might have to stab somebody, choke somebody out to defend your life. Well, we wanted to cover all that, and we did. So they started counter-marketing and saying that we're pushing out a product that's too good to be true, and we're like, well, actually it's not.
Just competitors?
Competitors, yeah. So they send out that message that too good to be true and blah, blah, and start sending out stuff on the internet. And we were like, no, and we pushed forward. It took, like we did the math. We know these incidents happen, in comparison to how many concealed carriers and gun owners there are. We knew that we're talking about less than 1% will get involved in the incident, and less than half of that will be concealed carriers. Mm-hmm. So we knew the number-wise that we could sustain taking in the memberships and building the emergency fund, before something would happen. And we were right? And then so 2015, so, cut to 2 years later, one of our members was the first in the industry, no one else had it, first in the industry be involved in a deadly force incident where he got a murder charge attached to it, mm-hmm. and he had to go to trial. Mm-hmm. So we just knew, we said, okay, we're going all in. So we threw all the resources at this incident, got them the best. We got the best expert witnesses, we got everything. We were the first to have a response team, so we flew our folks out there, met with the guy. He ended up getting, which, at the time he was in jail, and they had him they no bonded him. So they said he couldn't get out. So we said, okay, we understood what happens behind the curtain and all the times. We said, okay, Don West gets flown out there, and we're gonna negotiate with the attorneys that we hired for him, which was self-defense attorneys. Like these other organizations at the time were trying to get 2A friendly attorneys. It was like, that might've been DUIs and sure. So no, we said, okay, we self-defense attorneys only. So we got self-defense attorneys, because it's a specialized thing. Don West went out there to assist. We had initiated our guy from Florida that, helped to, in real time, as they're doing jury selection, he's running them, and we're finding out, if are they associated with, what do they say on their Instagram and Facebook? That's not Facebook at that time. So Facebook, Instagram, like, what did they post in? Are they friendly? It was Sean Benson. So we started doing that. Like, we doing stuff that was just unheard of at the time. So like, we were just kill. And the other thing was, when we knew the holes in the affirmative defense, and it's like, because affirmative defense means that I killed that guy. So most of the time the officers go, okay, now I get to go home. So I'm just gonna write this up. He said he killed him, and I'm gonna go. So they don't capture the videos, they don't capture, witness statements and stuff like that. And we knew they wouldn't. And we flew out our folks out there, our homicide guys and investigators, and we captured everything. Captured all the video stuff. They had nothing. We had everything to defend the member, and they didn't. Of course, it takes almost a year and a half to 2 years for it to go.
So the listeners, the reason that happens is the police don't need all that evidence.
That's right.
The person already admitted.
That's right. He admitted.
I don't need to prove
exactly.
it.
So, I'm not saying they're being lazy. They don't have to do it. They don't have to prove anything. So we grab all the stuff to be able to prove the story. And then we still do this to today. 13 years later, we still do the same thing. And no one else has the response team that we have. We do boots on the ground for a reason, because we're all ex-cops. No one else has anything set up like this. We know how the system works, and where there's holes in the system, what's going to happen. So we take advantage of that on your behalf as a member, and that's why we send the team. So we capture all that, and sure enough, just like we thought, the prosecutor didn't have their investigators start looking for witnesses until a year and a half later. Whoa. And we already had everything locked down. So it's beautiful. It was a thing of beauty. Cut to, the guy ended up, we got the man out, when I was talking about the bond. So we got him bonded out. So we paid for the bond. He didn't have to pay nothing back. So he's in jail for a week after getting no bond. So we challenged it. Because you got to we set up the paperwork and the evidence and stuff, and we present to the prosecutor to be able to get him out, the judge, present to the judge to get him out. So we got him out. So pushed the bond hearing, did all the beautiful things. We did something different for him that we hadn't done for anybody else, which was, they were about to fire him. They was gonna give him, because they saw that he was on Google. Employer? Yep, and he was on Google for murder. So his bosses didn't know, he's not talking to his boss, so they're gonna just fire him. So we sent one of our reps over there and explained the whole thing about, being accused of this and blah, blah. And we explained that it was self-defense and all the different things to his bosses, and we got him a 1 year severance. Wow. Yeah. So, and then he too took advantage of psychological counseling and all the stuff like that to prep him, because you have to be healthy enough also to go to trial. So we want to make sure that he was mentally healthy enough. So we made sure we did all those things. And we even, at that time, although the attorneys, the local attorneys were FOP attorneys and they were so good, the self-defense attorneys, but Don knew more. So we had Don go out there, and then we also, you know, we initiated some other training and stuff for them, for some experts to give them that much more information about self-defense law. So like we're just doing like a little bit of everything, and we won. You know, we won for our member. You know, we got an acquittal.
Would have been a lot cooler if he didn't have to pull the trigger, though.
Yeah,
That's the.
yeah, and this is one of those things. But he got attacked 3 times,
Yeah.
So you know that's one of those where it's like, you
I
know,
wasn't saying
he tried to get it.
Shouldn't have. It's
Yeah.
just like, yet you hear these stories, and it's like, man, I really don't want to be in that situation.
Yeah.
Even with all those resources, like,
Yeah.
it's.
Well, the scary thing about it is like most people who carry guns think that the ones that actually carry all the time, they train in the beginning, but they don't think about the aftermath. And that's why, you know, we are the champions of the aftermath of the shooting, because we make sure our members know that you are your first risk manager. You have to know what to do before the shooting, during the shooting, and after. You know, because any mistake that you make is going to be used against you. So even if, you know, because a lot of these organizations say that don't talk to the cops at all. It's like there's certain things you have to do. If you know that there's a witness over there, you better say that guy in the red shirt saw it and he went in apartment A. If you don't do that, then you're not going to help your case. Because if you think that they're going to knock, like again, they don't understand that the affirmative defense, they're not going to knock on that door unless you say he's over there, he saw it and she saw it, the whole thing. That Ring camera is, I know my neighbor has a Ring camera right over there. Like these are the things that you have to tell the police. You don't give them a breakdown of the incident, of course. You only do that, but you let them know that I'm going to cooperate, because you also don't want to be, you know, like it's me against you. Because if you just stay quiet and there's some smoke coming out of somebody's chest and there's a dead guy and just you got to go to jail. Like it's not free. So, you know, just like a cop, you have to have a, you know, justifiable homicide, because it's all homicides. You got to have a justifiable homicide. And that's the same thing with concealed carriers. That's what you're seeking. The other thing about having a group behind you, because everybody feels compelled to tell their story. Because in your mind, because you went through this traumatic incident, the first person that shows up that's a good guy, you wouldn't just tell them the story. We help you know that you have to defend against that. You know, don't give those things, because you need, just like cops, a lot of the larger agencies, they give their officers now 2 sleep cycles, so 48 hours before they interview them. And you need that, because you need everything just to settle back down. If you don't get that, you tend, with your memory gaps, you start to try to fill in the blanks. And some of it, either you don't remember, or it's not quite right. Like when you say you remember seeing this, but you didn't remember seeing that. In 2 days, you can say, I saw the barrel. And it's not to make anything up. It's that you have to have your mind catch up with what just went on. You got to come out of the trauma. And that's what we protect against. So we hold your hand and say, so we're going to set up the interview with the officers and stuff like that. But that's why you have to help yourself out in the beginning.
So much misinformation in that space. It's like not hard, simple formula.
Yeah.
But you can like wreck the recipe real quick.
Easy.
Yeah. And then you're hosed.
Yeah.
You guys probably get calls, members calling. It's like, I can't help you.
The only time, and I'm like the way that we operate, because we have our own, we own our own insurance company. We don't have the insurance regulators that can say we deny that claim. We tend to lean toward the member. We move when you call. Like we have to go initially off of your statement. So whatever you say, if you say you get a self-defense claim, we push first, we learn more, gather the evidence, and we continue to push. Well, there's not too many times that we don't deny coverage. It's either within scope or out of scope, right?
Maybe that's what I meant.
Yeah.
More than that.
Yeah.
More so, not, we're not going to cover you.
Yeah, correct. So it's you can have out of scope events where the worst case scenario, which we do get these several a year, they'll shoot and kill someone, and then they want to join. And it's like, you can't do that.
Like crash.
You were not a member. Yeah. Yeah, you can't crash and then say, hey, Geico, I want to join now. Can you cover this? Same thing. So that happens. That's the worst case scenario. Beyond that, you know, those who push themselves into the realm of where they miss their window, that window of opportunity, you know, that, you know, when you discuss, you know, innocence, not being the aggressor, imminence, that's that window of opportunity. If he says he's going to shoot you when he goes to his house and get his gun, and you shoot him, you shouldn't have done it. You're not there.
Followed him home.
Absolutely. I followed home and I shot him in his back. You can't do that, right? The same thing with, shooting too soon, shooting too late. Can't do those things, making sure that you're matching the aggression, meaning.
This is where training matters.
It absolutely matters.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Like screwing around today at the show with a guy that just retired. He's a legend here as a cop in this city, and badass old Marine grappler, and we're grab assing when I ran into him in the hallway. He's like, "You let me get the double unders." He got double underhooks on me, and we're hugging. His name's Sal. He's a lovely man, and I know he's not going to hurt me, but like just that, he knows, I know, double unders are bad. But if somebody doesn't know that,
that's correct.
So you don't know what you don't know, and these people, I shouldn't say these people, but in general, you distance and timing and even understanding how fast you can present a pistol and what's the efficacy of the rounds that I carry in my gun against a humanoid mammal. And then there's all the factors of maybe it works that way, but maybe it doesn't, like PCP or maybe the guy wants to die and he's willing to spend his last 30 seconds trying to kill a family on the side of the road. So it's like without training, you don't know what you're capable of. But then I also don't know, like I don't want you to put your hands on me if you were angry. So I'm not going to even be close enough for you to. But
correct.
if you've never had that happen, you don't understand how dangerous even a little person like one of these girls, man, they pick a freaking vase up or a coffee mug. I had a young lady hit me in the face with a coffee mug once when I was about 18.
Oh, you were 18?
I was 18.
You probably deserved it. But.
I didn't.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Definitely did.
sorry.
But just that, a little. Bam.
And she got you.
Yeah, busted my head open. Like it does not. That stuff is not evident to people unless you subject yourself to training, and people don't.
True.
It's a tiny little fraction of even in the law enforcement community. I went to the academy. Okay, big deal. Much in a weekend.
Correct.
But it's not even just the shooting portion of it. How fast can a human cover this distance? How much can they keep fighting after I shoot them? What are the signs of these things having any effect on their body? Like all that stuff. I'm not talking to you so much as just the
No, I understand that.
But without that training, which is a real investment of time and resources, you don't know. And then people, as you said earlier, talking about cops, they revert to, there's the hammer I have, I'm going to pound some nails, and end up with a lot of people's lives ruined.
Oh, absolutely. And then back on that other note, that's one of the reasons why we push, Andrew Branca's stuff, because he really is an expert in that space with laws of self-defense. Oh my God, he lets you know, here's the elements of, self-defense, and this is where you need to be, and then talk about reasonableness and avoidance, and truly making sure you can't just shoot somebody for spitting on your shoe or flipping you off and all that other stuff. It's you really have to have a life threat, and all those things have to be in place, because it's really the prosecutor's job to disprove that you qualify for a self-defense claim. That's what it is. So if you mess up and do any of these things,
you're not talking about insurance claim.
No, I'm talking about a self-defense claim to a judge and jury. Because if you don't have that, and he can disprove that you are aligned with being qualified for a self-defense claim, it has nothing to do with us, with the claim of self-defense. None of the competitors, CCW say, no one can cover you if you don't qualify for the self-defense claim. That's your job. And you have to understand the laws and what goes along with that.
You're saying these attorney groups out there, they can't cover you?
The only attorney group that will actually push out, you already know who that one is, the ones that talks about taking bad shoots. He's just like any other attorney. If you you commit murder, you can find an attorney that's going to take your case. Yeah, it's the same thing. That group too, who says they do it, they can't do it under the self-defense coverage. They step out and you can pay them extra. They then become just regular criminal defense attorney. Yeah. So anybody can hire a criminal defense attorney if you murder someone. And that's exactly what they're talking about. So across the board, and none of these groups under their self-defense programs can cover one that doesn't qualify as a self-defense claim.
It's amazing how much misinformation there is in this space
Yeah.
on that as well. How do people like educate themselves on it? What are the things you should look for?
I mean, again, we're still talking about you need to put as much thought and energy and time into understanding the laws as you do putting bullets down range.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means, finding places like, and I keep saying the law of self-defense, Andrew Brinker, finding people like Andrew, like there's other people out there that push out information. But knowing that you have to study so you stay aligned with the law is so important, because there's a lot of innocent people in prison, and you don't want to be one of them. So the mistake that you make can lead you to ruin your life and the lives of your family by putting yourself in jail, and you don't want to be there. A lot of the competitors, they like to tease with and scare you with what happens in the civil realm. And if you have anybody on your podcast that can come up and say they worked a true civil case against one of their members, they're going to be lying. We've had a couple that we had that, like, in 13 years that we had to kind of, let's just, do this one.
I'm just so I'm clear, what you're saying is somebody is charged with a crime for a legitimate self-defense. They are acquitted.
The majority of the states cover them. If they're acquitted, then a lot of the states don't allow you to be sued. That's number one, civilly.
Okay.
Right?
So you're saying people that are using that as a scary sales tactic are not being truthful.
That's correct. And that's the reason why some of them are up to, and we have it, we don't push it out there. We don't try to scare you into it. We have it that you can add to our plans because people want it. And, ours is like 1.5 million. But there's some out there that are up to $2 million that they're dangling like a carrot now, saying, oh yeah, but we'll give you $2 million. Well, you can actually put $20 million on there because they won't see it, right? And then if they truly got to that point, right, you get to that point where you have to go to a civil proceeding over the shooting incident that may or may not have been acquitted. If you get to that point, it is then negotiated down, and they'll just say, okay, to shut you up, just like most police departments do, here's $150,000 to go away. And that's usually what happens. So they're not going to push that money out.
The cases you guys have had to work for members, civil stuff doesn't come up.
No, we had hundreds and hundreds of cases.
Hundreds and hundreds of cases?
In 13 years, absolutely.
None of them have gone to civil?
No, none of them gone to civil. We've had two that we've kind of negotiated some money just to shut the guy down from the threat of civil, right? Well, we knew he didn't have enough, but it was like, so that we can put that in that bucket, let's do it. So we forced it, but we were never forced to do one. And it's because it's really not aligned with what we do. But they scare you into thinking that the thug is coming to get your money and take your home. It's like, shut up. Stay out of prison. That's the number one thing. You saved your life. Now save your freedom. Right? Stay out of prison. Hire the right people. Don't be distracted by all the, hey, I'm gonna give you a gun. I'm gonna give you a truck. Here's some bags and all this other stuff, and magazines, and you get all these things, right?
That's sales.
It is sales. I understand it, but what I want your listeners to know, forget about. I'm not even saying just come to us, but of course, but you need to know, don't fall for the BS. Because there's a reason why somebody's giving something away.
Well, if they have to, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's like when you go to remember banks 50 years ago. I still have a toaster from the bank. Remember, you'd open a savings account or something, and they give you a toaster, or coffee pot, or some shit. Like that's funny. Cause
everybody wants something free.
Sweeten the deal, man.
Here you go.
Had a bunch of coffee.
Here you go. We got you.
Right.
I got a gift package for you. Well, we don't do that. We don't have to do that.
Right.
It is my job, as our job as an organization, responsible organization, is to do what we're supposed to do for you. And then just be there for you in the most traumatic time of your life.
Yeah, I don't need a handbag. I want you to buy or sell me the good product and then do what I paid for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons too why we've been able to, because of our model with the captive management or captive insurance company that we own, we don't fall victim to the pressures of the insurance industry. We don't have a third party coming in like some of the organizations had and said, deny that claim. We don't have that. It makes us more powerful. Even at the time of, and I'm only going to say Carry Guard because you mentioned Carry Guard, because they were not operating properly, right? They were actually selling insurance. We don't have that. We're not selling insurance. CCW Safe is insured, and you are the beneficiary as our member of the plan that we have for this self-defense membership.
Well, what'd you think of that? I'm down in Florida. Check this out. Palm trees and sunshine. We just wrapped 5 days of classes. And Drew's doing some editing and said that we needed a proper closer. Here's my closer. You saw Stan. He's a solid individual. I believe in what they're doing so much. I've got their name on my trailer with this other list of great companies. If you're interested in their product, if you need their product, if you are shopping, go to the link that I've got in the show notes or in the description, depending on where you're at. Follow the link. It's on carrytrainer.com. Check it out. I would never recommend it if I didn't use it myself and fully believe in it, and I do recommend it. I do use it myself. It's what I'd tell my brother or sister to get if they were in that space. Man, 5 days of training down here was fantastic. I got to go home to the north, but you know what? We're going to be in Arizona, Las Vegas, California, and a bunch more places this year. Come see us. Mickey with carrytrainer.com. Drew behind the editing desk on this one. I'll see you guys soon. Bye now. Visit our website, carrytrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., Carry Trainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@carrytrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@carrytrainer.com or carrytrainer.com.